And so, pretty much except my hamstrings. Today I'm starting a new program. I'm going to be working towards my goals of a one-arm pull-up and a handstand push-up this year, and also doing some flexibility for the middle splits and for my hip flexors. And I'm working through a little bit of golfer's elbow, almost finished dealing with that, and also some structural imbalances in my shoulders that I need to work out before I crank forward with those handstand push-ups. As always, I start my workouts with some foam rolling. And I'm just coming out of a sickness. I'm still not 100%. I had a cold or a flu or whatever last week. So today's the first day that I am going to do a workout in the last week that wasn't just a, sort of recovery, being sick kind of a workout, but I'm still going to do reduced load. I don't go straight back from being sick right back to the same amount of volume and intensity that I was doing before I got sick. So I will do less sets today, mostly of my primary exercises. And I've got a new program, so it is a little bit different today than there's a few changes, a few modifications to what I was doing last mesocycle. If you don't know what a mesocycle for the way I write programs is a 4-week program. A mesocycle consists of microcycles, so a microcycle is 1 week, and then a macrocycle is several mesocycles. So my macrocycle at the moment is about completely fixing this golfer's elbow and the shoulder imbalance. So I've got a few tears in some of the muscles in my right shoulder a couple of weeks ago. And so that's, I'd say, probably 98% better. It's probably 100% better. I can't feel anything at the moment. So that's almost done. But yeah, my macrocycle goal, so over 3 mesocycles, is to be completely rid of this golfer's elbow and of any lingering shoulder pain, or I should say imbalances, because it was an imbalance in my shoulders in strength that caused the injury. So that's how you program. That's what a macrocycle is. And that's what mesocycles are. So I've just started my second mesocycle in this macrocycle. And looking forward to it. It's always good to mix things up, do things a bit differently after 4 weeks. But you know what? The real secret to success that so few people are willing to, go through is it's just turning up every day and doing the boring stuff. That's why so few people achieve great success in the gym, because people are always looking for something different to do, or something that's exciting, or something that's fun. And the truth is, to get strong and flexible, to turn your body from being frail and injury prone to being strong and injury resilient, you have to do a lot of boring work. There's a lot of boring stuff that you have to do, a lot of repetition, a lot of turning up and just going through the motions. And most people just don't have the discipline and the dedication to do that. That's what separates the truly great from the mediocre. And that's not just in the gym as well. That's, you could say that with business, you could say that with family. There's a lot of just going through boring stuff. Okay, what have I got to do now? I've just got to do my shoulder rotator cuff activation. I can move this camera up a bit now. This is a really good exercise for the rotator cuff. Really good strengthening exercise, but I do use it as a strengthening exercise sometimes. Just like all other periodizations. Sometimes I'll program this, but I'm using it at the moment as a warm-up exercise because it's really, really good for telling the nervous system to get that rotator cuff on and doing what it's doing, because creates isometric contractions in the rotator cuff, which is really the way that the rotator cuff works, to hold the humerus in the glenohumeral joint. All right, let's go. So now I'm into my workout specific warm-up for the shoulder press. So I've done my general warm-up, and I'm doing shoulder press at the moment because working towards a handstand push-up, but I've uncovered some imbalances in my shoulders, and any calisthenics movements for a handstand push-up are not very good for overcoming structural imbalances. So, things like pike push-ups or feet elevated pike push-ups or wall-assisted handstand push-ups, they're all bilateral movements, which means that your limbs, your arms, are both moving your body at the same time, which means that whenever you come close to failure, the stronger side is always going to do more work. Dumbbells, on the other hand, are a unilateral movement, which means that each limb is individually pushing the weight, and it's impossible for the stronger side to do the work of the weaker side, which makes them superior for overcoming structural imbalances from left side to right side. Because as I achieve failure on my weak arm, I'll feel that, and I'll feel like I can only push more with the strong arm, and then that's when I'll stop, and the imbalance will work itself out. And this is my last warm-up set. Okay. For my pull-ups, I'm using these Kensoi Swissies, and these ones have this paddle here so that it basically reduces the demand on the wrist, and that deloads the muscles and the tendons that are inflamed from golfer's elbow. So that's why I do this. And they're really, really good, because when you're dealing with golfer's elbow, a big part of the process is basically just continuing on with what you do, but trying to deload the wrist flexor tendons a little bit. And so these are really, really good for that. And that's why I'm using them. So hopefully I'll only need to use them for this mesocycle and one more, hopefully, and then I'll be free from the pain, and then I can go back to regular pull-ups. Okay, here we go for round one. So pairing a vertical push and a vertical pull, the way that I'm doing it is my preferred way to structure a bent arm strength workout, or horizontal push with horizontal pull. I did get asked recently, what's the best workout structure? There's no best workout structure, because there's so many different ways to program, and you'll speak to different coaches and they'll have their favorite way to structure a workout, and it'll be totally different to what I do, and they've produced incredible results as well. So I'll just describe why I like to do it this way. I always put compound movements first, the biggest, most demanding exercises first. Because, for example, a pull-up requires so much strength. If I go and do several other exercises first, like if I do bicep curls first and then I try and do pull-ups, I won't be able to produce the same amount of strength in my pull-up as if I was fresh, which means I'm not going to be able to get as much volume in the workout. So you always put those harder compound movements first. And then the next consideration with the workout structure is you put your supplementary exercises after those compound lifts. So everything that I do after I've exerted my max effort on the big lifts like the shoulder press and the pull-up, you'll never be able to do max effort on anything after that. So that's where you just add volume to the muscle groups that you've already worked. So for me, I'm going to be doing some lateral raises with some lat pull downs. So I'm still doing push and pull. I'm still doing like the way that the joint moves. I'm still doing a pushing exercise and a pulling exercise within the shoulder joint. And then I'll do bicep and tricep work as well. So that's, again, more supplementary work for the muscles that are still being used in these compound lifts. And then you finish with your remedial work. So for me, rotator cuff work and wrist flexion and extension. And that's a basic breakdown of how I structure a workout. Oh, and of course I also do lower body flexibility in between my sets as well. So I'm doing strength and flexibility, which I believe is very, very important. Otherwise you just don't do flexibility training for most people. Otherwise, rest periods just get really blown out. And so, you know, if I do 30 seconds on each side of this couch stretch, my upper body muscles are relaxing while I do this, but I'm getting a good stretch on my lower body in an area that I really need it. And then when I go and do the pull-up, my muscles that I use for the shoulder press are relaxing still, which means that by the time I go back, so I'm taking 2 minutes break here, by the time I go back to do my shoulder press again, it's been about 5 minutes, which is more than enough recovery time on one muscle group to be able to produce a good effort. Squat my mobility here because my next flexibility movement is for the middle splits. And I probably should have done a bit of this in my warm-up, because this is a really good way to warm up those adductors before doing the butterfly work that I'm about to do. And I got to watch out that I don't overdo it today, so I think I'm going to cut my primary exercises there. Just thinking. I feel okay. I might do one more set. I'm meant to do 4 sets. I might just do 3. And then I'll go into my supplementary exercises, and I wouldn't normally be sitting here questioning how many sets I do. That's part of my program. But it's just because I'm coming back from a virus. Get a bit more air in here. So I've got a really nice burn going on my left shoulder, but the right shoulder doesn't feel like it's getting worked that much, which is exactly the idea of using dumbbells for me at the moment, because I haven't used dumbbells for so long, and I should have. I really should have used dumbbells in every 3rd mesocycle, even though my goals are the handstand push-up. I just got so focused on the calisthenics progressions. And so this imbalance has gone unchecked for too long, got out of hand. And what happened in a workout about 3 weeks ago is that the stronger side was just way too overloaded. And it was the stronger side where I had the muscle tears. Interesting how that happens, isn't it? Because it was doing all the work. These are awesome, by the way. If you've got issues with your forearms like I do, get a set of these. Use a link in the description, they're really good. Alright, so this is my home gym makeshift lat pull down, which actually works really well. And you know, don't sit there thinking to yourself, oh, I wish I had a big step like that at home. I wish I had things very different here. I'm just making use of what I've got. And I rig these up, and you know, so I can come down here and do my lat pull downs. Okay, so now I do my butterfly stretch. So now I'm actually into the middle splits training. Flexibility has been a very hard thing for me to develop. I've trained people for a year who can do the butterfly stretch so much better than me. Same with pancake, same with hip flexors. My hips are, because I've got femoral acetabular impingement, or FAI hip, and I've also got spondylolisthesis in L4 and L5, which causes an anterior pelvic tilt, which makes everything to do with FAI hip even worse. And it just means that everything, pretty much except my hamstrings, is very, very hard to improve flexibility in hip internal rotation, external rotation, especially hip extension, so hip flexors. Middle splits are tough too. So I've got to really work for it, but so what? That's the journey. I'll do my dumbbell lateral raises down here just so that I can keep everything here. Alright. Still got a headache from this cold and I'm still blocked up. I still can't breathe properly. But I do feel 90% better. Maybe not 100% yet. Well, definitely not 100%, but I'm pretty close to it. So that's a good thing. And so I still did something every day last week. You know, if you watch my videos, you would have seen that I still did some workout, even while I was sick, but it was major reduction in volume and intensity. And some days all it was some foam rolling and trigger point release. So basically just keeping my body from tightening up too much, stimulating blood flow, stimulating mobility, and dealing with the aches and pains that come from training, from working out. Which means that I feel a lot better today doing this workout than I would have if I didn't do anything last week. And that's probably the biggest thing for me with my workouts when I'm sick. Oh shit, I know. Thought I didn't have the 5 kilo plates on that side. That would have felt very weird on that last set though, so. And then you can add some end range contractions with loaded stretching like this to help speed up the results and the adaptation. So for here, I'm contracting my glutes, contracting them hard, trying to squeeze my knees down towards the ground, and then relax. And then again. And then relax. Alright. Alright, I'll just do another round of all this, and then I'll get into my arms work. Alright, so just got to start my timer. So I finished my shoulders and lat pull down, and now I'm on to bicep and tricep work, and I can just feel this headache from the virus just sort of sitting there at the back, reminding me not to go too hard. So I'm not going to push myself with flexibility work anymore. I'm just going to allow myself to rest between sets. And if you want to know why I'm doing a 45-degree angle bicep curl, the humerus, like when you do a bicep curl, because the long head of the bicep crosses the shoulder joint into the labrum, which means that the bicep's full range of motion is actually from here to, it's not from here to here, it's actually from here to there. So changing the angle of the humerus just changes the way that, it changes the length of the proximal attachment of the long head of the bicep. So yeah, it's basically just changing the dynamic of the exercise. So by leaning back, I can let my humerus hang vertically, which pulls my shoulder more into extension, which lengthens the long head of the bicep, and it just changes the way that you're using the biceps versus, for example, like a preacher curl where your arms are like this, you know. So it's good. Okay, what have I got now? My rest time's up, and I'm doing some tricep extensions. And then the reason why I'm doing, just let me start my rest timer and record my reps. If I don't start my rest timer and record my reps straight away, my rest periods go so much longer than they're meant to. And sometimes I forget what set I'm on. Have I done 3 sets or 4 sets? And I don't like that. I want to be very specific with my workouts. And so the reason why I'm doing a neutral grip hammer curl instead of a supinated grip bicep curl is it deloads the wrist flexors, so it's a good way to keep training the biceps but give the wrist flexor tendons a little bit of a break, which is important. You know, overloading the wrist flexor tendons, that is what keeps your golfer's elbow from getting better. So that's one reason. Because for me, I really need to build my biceps up. My biceps need to be bigger and stronger so that they take more of the load when I do pulling. Too much of the load's going into the forearm flexors. But the other reason is when I went to neutral grip, I actually started to feel some pain that I hadn't felt down here, which was like the onset of tennis elbow. And that would have gotten worse if I didn't do something about it. And a neutral grip bicep curl is a really good way to train the bicep curl and deal with tennis elbow, because it hits, when you go to the neutral grip, it hits a lot of the muscles around here differently than when you do a supinated grip. And so that's why I'm doing a neutral grip bicep curl, but I'm only going to do that for my first 3 sets, and then I'm going to go to a supinated grip, which you'll see in just a moment. And you know what? That tennis elbow feels like it's completely gone now, which is great. And that's what, you know, because I've had a deload week last week. And so my body's gone through an adaptation. The highest level of adaptation, called supercompensation, only occurs when you're resting or deloading. If you're pushing all the time, you're always creating the stimulus for adaptation, but you're never creating the recovery for it. So there's different ways to deload, but if you train really consistently like I do, you know, 4, 5, 6 days a week, and you're really going for it, and you feel DOMS after your training, like if you feel that muscle soreness for the next couple of days, then you're definitely training hard enough to achieve adaptation. Then having a deload week like what I did, you really go through a phase of growth. You'll build muscle, you'll build strength. It's really good. And so that's definitely happened for me in that last week. I can especially feel some change in my arms, in the golfer's elbow and tennis elbow. Positive change. Oh, there's headaches. Really pissing me off. I don't get headaches normally, ever. I haven't had I haven't had a headache for a long time. And it just started to come through in the last few days of this bloody virus. And it's so much better today than it was yesterday or the day before, but shit. Always makes me really feel gratitude for being healthy in general when I get sick, because there's a lot of things that people deal with that I'm not dealing with, that I'm grateful for, that I don't have to go through certain things. That's just creatine and electrolytes, by the way, if you want to know. My brother and I are ambassadors for VPA. I wholeheartedly believe in that brand. They're really, really good quality supplements, Australian made. So you can use the link in the description of this video, and there's a 10% discount code there. And if you're overseas and you want to get it, email them and tell them that we sent you, and they'll give you a flat shipping rate. And Australian and New Zealand grass-fed whey protein powder is superior in quality to anything else in the world. It's the highest quality protein. So if you're getting American-made or European-made whey protein, it's inferior in quality to Australian grass-fed. Okay, here we go. Last round of this one. Oh man. Okay. So this is officially more bicep work than I've ever done in my life. So let's see how big these guns get in the next 2 mesocycles. And the whole reason I'm doing it is I've never trained to be a bodybuilder. So I've never trained with the goal of like looking in the mirror and seeing how my body looks and how I can bring up the muscles. But I don't say that as a good point. I don't say that from a moral high ground. It was a bad mistake on my behalf to think that I could ever do what I want to be able to do without having good muscle development. I was going to say big muscles, but big muscles, but good muscle development. And so I rejected the idea that, I needed to train to build my muscles up. And I paid the price for it. I had bad injuries. And, knowing what I know now about injury management, about identifying weak links in the body and making assessments and then programming to overcome those weak links, it's pretty clear that my bicep is the weak link in my pulling strength. And that's causing too much load to be placed on my wrist, because the bicep controls the elbow. So the only other 2 joints involved in pulling are the shoulder and the wrist. And so it's putting more load on the shoulder, which can handle it, and on the wrist, which can't. And so that's where the golfer's elbow is coming from. So that's my reason for doing this. But, it's the goal is make these guns bigger, get those biceps bigger. Okay, here we go. And that is a deep burn. It's a deep burn. It sure is. Oh, I'll do one more set of these and then I'll just do a tiny bit of rotator cuff work and some wrist flexion and extension. And I think that's a pretty good return to training workout after being sick. Pretty good triumphant return, I should say. I'm happy with it. Oh, this goddamn headache. It's killing me. I'm not used to getting headaches at all. It's not something that I normally deal with. And I don't like to take painkillers unless it's an absolute last resort. So I'm just kind of battling through it without painkillers. I could probably just go and take a couple of Panadol and I'd be fine, but I don't like just going to painkillers. All right. Here we go. Let's get 5 more reps. Oh, man. I'm definitely starting to, feel the fatigue from being sick, so I'm just going to fly through these. I'm not going to bother doing any tempo. I'm just going to do something for my rotator cuffs. All right, to finish off, I'm just doing some golfer's elbow specific rehab. So this exercise is for the wrist flexors. So this is the specific work to strengthen the tendons that connect to the medial epicondyle, which when they are inflamed are responsible for medial epicondylitis, aka golfer's elbow. all in all, this has been a good workout. I feel I definitely have had a good workout. I can feel a big pump, especially in my arms. Whew, all that bicep work. But I can feel a good pump in my shoulders as well, and they're the areas that I'm trying to build this structural balance in. So they're the areas that I'm trying to build mass. You know, I need this left shoulder to grow in mass to match the size of the right shoulder. So, and it, you know, that's why I've explained in this video why I'm doing all the dumbbell work to work out that imbalance. I feel like my lats have had a really good workout because of doing those lat pull downs after the pull-ups. And my arms are cooked. So, and then this is just for structural balance really in the wrist, you know, in the same way that I do push and pull in my shoulders and push and pull in my arms, I do push and pull in my wrists too. Okay. So much of recovering from injuries and getting to that point where they're not a problem anymore at all is just doing what so few people are willing to do, which is doing the boring work over and over again to achieve the adaptation that creates the result that we all want. And there's so much more that I'd rather be doing with my time than this kind of work. But I've learned the hard way that if you don't do the boring stuff to change, you know, to turn your weaknesses into strengths, that those weaknesses turn into real problems. Real problems. And then I've also learned the hard way, after having real problems, that you can actually fix it, you know. You can have things like slap tears, where you can't move your arm beyond here without it being in excruciating pain. Golfer's elbow that's so bad that you can't pull anything. Like even a dumbbell, like a 3 or 5 kilo dumbbell, you try and row with it and it hurts. You know, meniscus tear, where you can't bend your knee more than walking up and down a flight of stairs. And I've come back from all that stuff and be able to do everything that I do. So you can come back from it if you do the right stuff. And the right stuff is often boring. It's not glamorous, but it's necessary. That one I'm so much weaker on my left side. I really feel that up here on the left arm. Okay. Let's get this last set done. I'm really hoping that tomorrow this headache's gone, because I'm not going to push myself in my workouts until this headache's not bothering me. Woo! Arms are on fire. This is just burning now. Oh, man. Oh. My grip, everything's just cooked. It's all fried. Okay. Here we go. All right. Pretty stuffed now. I'll see if I get the time and the energy this afternoon to do just some handstands, but I'm not going to push myself. That's pretty good, what I've already done to come back from a sickness first workout back. So if I don't get my handstands workout done today, then I'll see you tomorrow for tomorrow's workout.